It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, let's start over. Let me go get in my pool. We'll run this back. Nick's in Hawaii. The backdrop's way too nice for us to just have our normal backdrops. So, but nonetheless, Nick Farabaugh joined the show. What's going on, pal?
What's going on, guys? What's going on? I am literally on the beach right now. So,
unbelievable.
literally. And the sunrise is right over there. We're a little late. I showed these two guys what it looked like when it was a little orange. Now it's just kind of blue. But, dude, the sunrise is really early over here in Hawaii. It really does. Like 5:40-ish is where it starts.
I was going to say.
It is not an afternoon drive for you. We're recording this a little earlier than we normally do in Pittsburgh time, but it's dawn for you in Hawaii time. Nick, you've been over there for almost a week now. I know you've been enjoying your time, but you've also been doing some work. What's it been like so far?
Yeah, guys, I've been diving into a ton of different things. I think, Steelers related, just because I've been diving into the high school kind of culture over here in Hawaii, meeting some coaches, talking with them, talking with players. Obviously, the Steelers players that are Polynesian or played in Hawaii, and there's, 8 or 9 of them now, and 5 that have played in Hawaii, I think. 3 of them are from the same high school, Nick Herbig, and Roman Wilson. The St. Louis school, by the way, is very impressive. Imagine if you're from Pittsburgh, Central Catholic, but, beefed up times 300. Football feels like, if you've ever been to Texas or you're from Texas and you know how Texas high school football is like, that's what's like here on the island. Literally Fridays get shut down during that season, man. So I've been doing some of that. I went to the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame over in Laie on the other side of Oahu. So I'm currently on Oahu, by the way. That's where Honolulu is. That's where I am actually right now. So I'm in the biggest city, obviously, in Hawaii, but I've been to the Big Island. I've been to Kauai as well. So I've been all over the map, kind of doing different things. And, dude, that culture there, you feel it. I think Polynesian culture is very unique in the values that they teach. It's built into their history, but the Steelers have drafted and have such a rich history of Polynesian players. Troy Polamalu, obviously the biggest one, but there's so many more of those players that they've had, and it's because of those values that line up. But I've been out here, kind of learning some of the new Steelers players too. Guys like Roman Wilson, Troy Fautanu, others that have kind of been from here, kind of learn a lot about them. And so it's been a really eye-opening experience, honestly, when you think about 8, 9 guys from the Polynesian cultures, and I think 5 or 6 from Hawaii are on that Steelers roster, man.
We can talk about the history there, but I got to ask the important question before we go any further. What's the food been like?
Dude, it's great. Dude, Hawaii is a phenomenal food wherever you go. It doesn't matter if you go to the Big Island. I like the Big Island. I was in Kona, which only has about 20,000 people. Kona Brewery, by the way, fantastic beer. It's all local made. And they homegrown all the ingredients. None of that stuff is coming in. So it's all self-sustained stuff. It's phenomenal. But if you want some Hawaiian food, dude, okay, so I tried poi for the first time. Have y'all ever had poi?
Mm-mm.
Well, they have a saying in Hawaii. If you say you like poi, you're either Hawaiian or you're lion. And they aren't wrong. It's just not good. But outside of that, the food's great. Fish, obviously, is phenomenal out here. Everything is self-sustaining with fish and everything. But, dude, they have great restaurants, local spots. You got to talk to the locals for the real spots, especially if you have a car. I've done that. I've driven all around the islands. Dude, the great spots are great. Luckily, I had a few really good local guides to give me some intel. But it's been great out here, man. The food especially, and they have really good beer. I didn't expect that. I don't know why, but Hawaii has a really good beer culture.
Gotcha. Love to hear that. But anyways, yes, back to the football conversation at hand here. You mentioned going to the Polynesian Museum, and you mentioned the guys that are currently on the roster, but even going back, like Troy Polamalu, just the rich history that the Steelers have within that culture in general. How awesome was that experience to take in, and what did you kind of learn there that you maybe already didn't know?
Dude, there's so much Steelers just all over it just because of that. Troy Polamalu obviously has a plaque there. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016. But, like they have really cool stuff that's going to be coming. I obviously won't be here, but they're going to have on display like his jersey from USC to the Steelers days. It's going to be really cool. They have that right now for guys like Manti Te'o and Junior Seau. And it's kind of a rotating cast, but that's really cool. Even guys like Chris Kimawatu. You probably remember him. He's inducted in this Hall of Fame. Guys like Tyson Alualu have their name on these plaques. And you look at the Polynesian Bowl too. That's another thing that happens every year in Laie over there. And they have a ton of Steelers just on that have played it. Roman Wilson played in that. Or they look at Polynesian players in the NFL right now, and you have Jalen Warren and Troy Fautanu and all that, and you look at other guys like who is the former Polynesian Players of the Year, and you look at who was 2018. It was Juju Smith-Schuster. Just so many different things. And then I thought there were some interesting notes. So they have at the very end, they thank people for donations, which was interesting. Saw Juju and Troy and up there, but also there was a thank you down there to the Steelers organization. So it seems like the Steelers clearly value this as well. So they've really built into this too. I think they respect the culture so much, man, and it's so deep. It goes just beyond the Steelers, but there's such a deep football pride within the Polynesian community. It doesn't matter if you're Tongan, Samoan, Hawaiian, whatever. The Polynesians, man, really embrace football as something, and you can feel it on the side, and you can feel it in there. I asked Isaac Seumalo about that, dude. Alan, you read this quote probably, and you and I know Isaac doesn't say much. That was the most passionate I've ever heard him saying, like, listen, man, like, this isn't, like, Seumalo's, that name means more on my back than it does, if it was Williams or something. It just means more. So the culture there is really strong. And it's really something to see when you see it up close, just throughout football. Because you see it, I think with what the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame has done really well is not only do they have it, with NFL and pro players, you see college players, you see high school players, like you see the next wave. And so it's all history, man. And they have it dating back, the first player, et cetera, et cetera. It's really cool to see.
I think it's really interesting to me because I think a lot of people look at Troy Polamalu, and obviously he's certainly the most famous example, but the Steelers have kind of been doing this for a long time. I remember when I was a kid, be looking at the Steelers, roster for the year, and I'm, looking at a name like Lonnie Palele, and like to me, like that was a guy. I mean, he was a backup lineman. He wasn't a star player, but I just kind of, as a young kid from Pittsburgh, I think that was probably my first sort of like, oh, where's he from? Like what, I don't know. There's nobody in my elementary school class named Palele. Like where's that from? And what is that? And I think that's probably when I was really like first kind of introduced to what Polynesian culture was all about. And it's this, it seems like it can't be an accident, right? That there have been so many Pittsburgh Steelers over the years. And I understand there are a lot of Polynesian players in the NFL, and there are probably more Polynesian players than you first maybe expect. Guys like Jalen Warren and Juju Smith-Schuster don't exactly, have the last name or necessarily have the look of like a, don't wearing long hair, they don't have, they don't have a last name like Seumalo, like they are still Polynesian players. But I think like the Steelers specifically have had this long, I don't know, love affairs is too strong a word, but a long fondness, I'll say, for Polynesian players. And I think there's this link, there's this connection in values when it comes to what a lot of the people that grew up in that area and whose families are from that area are all about, and what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for in people and in players that I think is really interesting.
Yeah, listen, Braden Fahoko and I talked about this a little bit. Just what's the connection? Why are there so many, Hawaiians or Polynesians on the Steelers, even right now? And you kind of look at everybody who's from Hawaii or Polynesian on the Steelers right now. Nate Herbig, Roman Wilson, Isaac Seumalo, Fahoko himself. Then you got Troy Fautanu. You got Jalen Warren. You have a large list of guys. Alan, I think you and I would say there's a lot of overlap between a lot of those guys with how they approach football, how they kind of approach just talking to us, for example, or talking to anybody that they meet in their life. Like Troy Fautanu, dude, is one of the most respectful guys I think I've ever met. He literally is super nice, and he has these cultural values. And Brain Fahoka was kind of telling me, like, dude, there's three things the Steelers value. One, they want that kind of respectful, you know, type of guy, but that's going to put his head down and work really hard. That's part of the culture. Two, these guys grow up in football, man. A lot of them, like Isaac Sayamalo, his dad was a coach, so he grew up in football, right? So he's kind of been around that. So football is like ingrained in your blood when you're from Hawaii or you're in the Polynesian culture for a lot of these guys. And three, you kind of have that mesh point of history, acknowledgement of tradition, and so it kind of all smelters into number one and two, and then you get this overarching kind of cultural significance of the sport within the community, and you can see it play out right here on the island. You know, there's not really like camps out here either. I think that's another thing that I've talked about with all of those guys is like there's not big football camps when you're, say, going to college. Like Braden Fahoka went to LSU. Roman Wilson went to Michigan. The Herbigs went to Nate Herbig went to Stanford. Nick Herbig went to Wisconsin. Isaac Sayamalo grew up in Oregon, went to Oregon State. But there aren't really a ton of camps out here to get yourself noticed. You have to fly yourself to the mainland, so you know these guys are that dedicated to it. They pay their own way to get to California and get to Vegas or get to Arizona, wherever, Seattle, wherever they have to go to show their talents just to get a foot in the door on the mainland. So, like, it's real, man. And so I love kind of the culture here. And another thing that I'll point out is Steelers don't have anyone on the team from the University of Hawaii. You would be stunned at how much this island and all the islands just embrace the Rainbow Warriors. Like, back when Colt Brennan and everyone were, you know, when they were talk program and really fun, everyone obviously remembers that. But it's like, dude, they're diehard out here. Everyone roots for them. It is a culture to be a fan of Hawaii University, the University of Hawaii. So it's really special, man. Like the culture out here, it's just all football. And when football season comes, it's crazy. I've picked up some tidbits that show just how crazy it is. So when you understand why, you know, there are so many players from Hawaii that make it to the NFL and why they become Steelers specifically, like it's no surprise.
Yeah, you're not coming back, are you? It just sounds like you're just staying over there. You've really kind of embraced, even the way that you're talking, some of the things you say, it almost seems like you have a different accent now.
They do.
Being there.
Now, if I were to say it the mainland way, it would be Hawaii. But
see, that's what I'm saying. You're ingrained now. You're staying over there.
Yeah, Nick, well, let's peel back the curtain here a little bit, right? I mean, first of all, Nick has for a very long time, I think maybe even since before you started working for us at Steelers Now, been a regular guest on the radio in Hawaii forever. I don't know why. Randomly, I think at first, and then obviously you're good at this, so they just kept having you back on. 1, 2. At training camp last year, more than once, you were, people approached you not as Nick Farabaugh, but as like being the brother or some other relative of one of the Steelers' Polynesian players. So my questions are have you been recognized from the radio? Have you been confused for a native? Or has anybody thought that you're related to a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers since you've been in Hawaii?
Okay, one, I have been recognized, not from the radio though, from like Steelers fans actually.
Okay.
So get this. So I have 2 stories about this. So I went on. On Oahu, there's a thing on the other side of the island called Kualoa Ranch. That's where Jurassic Park, Jumanji, a ton of different Kong, like Skull Island, Godzilla, a ton of these movies were filmed. So I went over there. I thought I would do it. It's a touristy thing, but I've never been there, so I did it. So get this, my tour guide for the day was a Steelers fan, and he happened to recognize me. It was just funny. And then I told Smitty about this one. When I was island hopping from the Big Island to Oahu, a TSA agent, so I have one of those neck pillows. I was gifted it when I was like 15. That happens just to be like Steelers logo related, and I just never replaced it. And so the guy said, wow, that's the worst logo I've ever seen. Guy was a Ravens fan.
There you go.
I just thought that was funny. Didn't actually give me a hard time. It was just really funny. Have I been, confused for a native? Not yet. I I came in here not tan enough yet. When I was in training camp, I had been through the ringer of not only OTAs and minicamp and vacation, and after that, I was super tan, and I tied my hair back a specific way one day to where it was like real frizzy. And when I stood side by side with Isaac Sayamalo, I could have passed for Samoan. And I remember last year when we were at Friday Night Lights, I was going through the crowd because we have to walk through the crowd that makes this kind of line to get onto the field at Friday Night Lights. And I just heard someone go, "Hey, Oos!" And he was pointing at me. I was like, "What?" But either way, those back in Pittsburgh, we have that humidity that makes my hair frizz out, and so it looks like a different, coarser texture that's similar to those of like Polynesian hair. Right now, though, you can see my hair is kind of more finely tuned because it's not super humid here, so my curls genuinely kind of stay together.
Yeah, you went to Hawaii the 1 week. It was cooler in Hawaii than it has been in Pittsburgh. Good, nice work with that.
So dude, I love Hawaii's weather because it's like 85, and it can be hot, but like it's not humid. The only place it's really humid at is when you go to the Big Island and you go to Hilo out there. That's closer to the volcanoes than Kona is, dude. It really gets humid there, but it's not humid here at all in Honolulu. You kind of just get smacked with the heat. But I have not been confused yet as a Pacific Islander. So we're making progress there. I have been recognized though. And by the way, dude, I've been driving around these islands. The amount of like Steelers flags or people in Steelers gear I see, it's truly insane. It makes sense because Troy Polamalu, I'm sure, made a ton of fans, Hawaiians and Islanders and Polynesians, but I did not expect this amount of Steelers fans all the way out here in Hawaii. There's no Steelers bar though. I found a Packers bar. I found the southernmost Packers bar in the world. I think so. It's kind of funny, at least in the United States. So there's that, but I didn't find a Steelers bar. It's kind of weird.
Keep searching. Keep searching. You might find
I'll
them.
keep searching. I'll ask the locals to see if there is one.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that there's not, right? I mean, with as many people as there are that are Steelers fans.
You have to take this into account. The fact that there are bars for the teams in Hawaii is insane. The kickoffs in Hawaii are at 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true.
So, guys, what they'll do here in Hawaii is, I'm not kidding, they will wake up, watch their team play football, and then go to church. Like, it is bonkers, the different kind of culture it is. You'll wake up at 7 a.m.
I love that.
And do that.
I remember talking to Nick Herbig about his mom's a teacher, and he would like stay in her classroom after school instead of going home and watch Monday Night Football after school on a Monday at like 3:30 p.m. and then because they'd have football practice later, he would just go straight. He would just stay in the school and watch Monday Night Football between school and practice.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It'll literally be, like 1 p.m. here, and there's Sunday Night Baseball on. I'm like, well, that's different. So I'm at lunch watching the Sunday Night Baseball game happen in New York. We're seeing Edwin Diaz getting thrown out of the game, and it's like 2 p.m. And I'm like, that's interesting. I got the sunshine. I'm sipping a margarita on the beach. Like, okay, it's kind of fun actually. It's different. It's a different culture, but dude, they're like so dedicated here to it. I thought even just to show how dedicated they are to this football thing, Alan, Roman Wilson, he's from Maui, and he played on the St. Louis school here on Oahu. Guys, this guy woke up every day at 4 a.m. to catch a 6 a.m. flight to fly here every day just to go play football. You want to know why that guy's in the NFL? That's why. Not everybody would do that. That's
Absolutely.
crazy. I even asked Nick Herbig, who's from Kauai. I was like, did you fly there every day? He's like, nah, man, I stayed here. Roman Wilson was either flying back to Maui and flying here or couch hopping. It was insane. He was doing that as a freshman in high school. Built different, man. Built different.
Absolutely. I do want to get to a couple questions that I put out on X4. Mainly because they're a lot different from ones that we've answered. I really like this one because it's not necessarily related to the team right now. But John wanted to know, with training camp being less than a month away, what are some of your favorite training camp memories over the few years that you've covered the team?
Training camp memories. Most of my favorite training camp memories are stories I can't really tell.
Yeah, I remember one last year that we can't.
Their favorite training camp memory will be this year when I'm there and we're doing a live podcast for the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah,
so it hasn't happened yet.
So here's one I'll tell. Outside of the Sam Aller stuff, because that was pretty fun. I'll talk about a football specific one. So I remember, you remember back in 2022 when I was peddling how I thought Jalen Warren was like really a thing. And then, Alan, I don't know if you were here. I don't know. You might have been on your like one of the weekend you missed that year. It was the first padded practice, and I remember he met a linebacker in the hole, and I think at that time I believe it was Miles Jack, and he met him in the hole, and just ran through him and kept going. And I was like, whoa. And I remember talking to him afterwards, and Jalen Warren went, yeah, man, I just close my eyes, and sometimes I just keep going. And I was like, okay, he's certifiably insane, which means he's good at football. So that was one of them. I have more, but that's like one of the football ones that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think like a favorite training camp story.
Were you covering the team when the guy pretended that he was on the team? And
no, I wasn't there then.
Okay.
I wasn't there then. I think this is a weird thing to pick as like a favorite, but I think one of the things that really like stands out to me as a memory of training camp is like one of my favorite. Actually, here's one that involves the people that we're talking about today. Yes, last year on move-in day, two things that happened that were really funny. One was that Broderick Jones Ubered all the way from Pittsburgh to Latrobe. That because he didn't have a car in Pittsburgh yet. That was good. The second was the Herbigs pulled up, and they pulled out of their car an entire cart, like a hotel room service cart, just piled full of snacks. Like it was just completely full, and they're wheeling their cart around with all their snacks for training camp. I thought that was pretty funny.
Do you remember Presley Harvin's gaming chair and how they had
Presley Harvin had a gaming chair?
The door guy, that was pretty
that Christian Kuntz drove to Latrobe for him in the back of his pickup truck. What a teammate that Christian Kuntz is, by the way.
Which is how we decided that he is a top 5 long snapper in the NFL. There's no other way to decide that, really.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things that was always really stood out to me about training camp is that, like, I think you get a better sense of who the people are when you're there. And I remember in 2019 when Coach Daryl Drake passed away, and the team had practice, the next day, and it was like a collective therapy session, right? It was just like guys like hugging each other, talking. Like 50% of the team was practicing in any given moment. The rest were just kind of, like standing around talking to each other. And I think like you just get a real feel for like, hey, these are people. I think when and the other cool thing about Steelers training camp is that I think that even the people in the crowd, like obviously I'm on the sideline, I'm talking to them, I have a more personal interaction, but I think even the people in the crowd can get some of that. Like when you watch them on TV, I think football players especially, they're wearing 4 inches of pads over 50% of their body, have a big helmet on, a face mask, and a visor, and you kind of lose the person in there, and they look like an action figure. And even if you go to a game in person, you're sitting way, there's 60,000 people there. You're far from the stadium, and you're far from the field in the stadium. And I think you get some of that, like who these people are. You get to see their facial expressions and their reaction. And I think that's the thing that's really special to me about training camp, is that you get to experience some of like the people and not just the players. And so I think that's really cool that the fans get some of that there, and that's always one that really stood out to me is like this is probably something I'll never see, and like you never see anything like this again.
Okay, I'll give you one from last year. It's actually Hawaii specific. It was on the same day of the Saumalo stuff. So on that day, a guy from Hawaii had flown all the way from Oahu to Latrobe to go see a training camp practice. Insane. This guy had a Hawaiian flag and everything, and he had a jersey that he was trying to get signed by all the Pacific Islanders Hawaiians on the Steelers. And he had a large collection already, like Polamalu and Kimawatu and all those guys already were on this jersey. Well, the last guy he needed was Isaac Seumalo. I was talking with Isaac Seumalo. Alan, can you remember Isaac Seumalo going over and signing autographs very often?
Almost never.
Yeah, basically almost never, right? So I pointed out, and I was done talking to Isaac, and I said, listen, there's a Hawaiian flag over there. Isaac, who was taking a straight line to the cart, turned around, beelined as fast as I've ever seen him to go sign this guy. He gave him Mauna Lea chocolates. Somehow, do you remember this, Alan? How I somehow came back with chocolates one day after?
Yeah, I don't remember how that happened, but I do remember that.
Gifted these to me for, pointing it out to Isaac. I thought that was just really cool, just because it shows the dedication of a fan, man. Like we see fans from Hawaii, Mexico. I see guys from Europe just to come to Latrobe. It's kind of crazy, the fan culture, but you really understand it when you see some guy like that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie Providence, friend of the show, says, assuming Fautanu and Frazier go into the season as starters, are there any concerns about how much youth is on this offensive line?
I don't have any, because if those two are starters, I think they beat some pretty good players to be starters. And I don't care how young you are if you're good. Like, if they beat out Nick Herbig and Dan Moore and those vets are on the sideline because those young guys, those rookies were better, then I'm not concerned about them being young. That doesn't bother me.
I mean, I think there's going to be some concern about them gelling. I think, you could, when you have a second-year guy and two rookies, I think you could have some growing pains. I definitely think that's possible. But I think that, when you also have that much youth, you expect that youth to get better. So over the season, they would get better. And, as you mentioned, Alan, Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier are currently guys that are not receiving first-team reps. So, they got to earn that keep. So if they are week one starters, they've earned their keep. And I really like Frazier and Fautanu as players as well. So I think there could be some growing pains. But is there, a concern that they're going to, be a substandard line because of that youth? I don't think so.
No, what you mentioned is honestly kind of the way that I've looked at it. Yeah, that is the difference as opposed to with Fautanu coming in now. You look back to just last year, I think much more polished than we were talking about Broderick coming in his rookie season. So I don't even think that that's a question. And Zach Frazier, is about as pro ready as it gets in terms of center. So I do think that there are some in terms of growing pains for the offense in general, though. I don't think that that's specific to the offensive line. When you're talking about a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new quarterback, there's a lot of moving pieces just in general. Certainly, 3 spots on the offensive line, because I'm almost considering this a second rookie season for Broderick going back to the left side. There's going to be growing pains for me out the gate, but that would have been the case probably for the offensive side of the football, regardless of who wins those jobs.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. So, I mean, listen, if Fautanu and Frazier aren't ready to start, do you really feel that good about Moore and Herbig? Not really. There's the other side. Yeah, absolutely. I like this question. Not at all related to us, and Nick, you can certainly chime in on this, but this almost feels geared more towards Alan and I. Joe said, "What do y'all think about the first year doing the show? Quickly shot up to the top of my must listens." We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary next month, Alan, and Joe's been a listener from the jump, and we appreciate that. But yeah, we're coming up on 1 year doing the show.
I still get excited to do it every day. I think that's been something that I wasn't sure about. Doing the commitment to doing this every day was on top of obviously the lot of other work I'm doing, was something I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy. I have yet to not enjoy doing it. I think that's been the biggest thing for me. And I really have and even if so, when we came into doing this, I said to Smitty, like, I don't care if this if this really makes money. Like, I wasn't trying to do this to like be thinking that it was going to be some like major profit source for our website. I mostly just wanted to find a way to better connect with the audience. I think we've done that, but I mean, I see the numbers keep going up every month, and it certainly seems like the audience is really enthusiastic about the product, which I think definitely makes it a lot easier to want to do it every day and to have the kind of interaction we've had. I think has really been I'm really impressed by the response we've gotten, and I'm ready to find ways to make it better and do more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat in terms of the daily stuff. Obviously, coming from doing around the 412, which we've been doing this is going to be 7 years of doing that. We record once a week. So jumping to doing something that I'm recording every single day was obviously going to be a bit different. But like you, I still get excited to do this every day. I read the comments every day, positively or negatively. We appreciate the engagement from you guys chiming in and giving your opinions as well. But yeah, I'm still super excited to do it every day. I'm super excited to continue doing it. And I'm excited that Nick has jumped on here probably at least once every other week. So still, he's been a huge part of the first year of Afternoon Drive, and hopefully we'll be going forward.
Yeah, man. It's like, listen, it's always fun to hop on. I don't hop on daily, obviously, but when I am, it's always good to chop it up. I like the questions, the interaction. Like, it's really fun because doing a podcast where you're just yelling into the void, it can be tough, tedious, right? Because really, you want that fan engagement, and I think we have such great fan engagement. Whether that's tons of questions, comments, just under everything. Like, dude, from where it was last training camp to where it is now, it's night and day. Like, it's night and day. So it's really awesome every time to come on and talk some ball.
And we'll leave it with this from Zach, mainly because his name. Love it. It's also with an H, so that's perfect. He said he wants Nick to talk about the quality of sunsets in Hawaii.
Yes, dude. I don't know if you've seen some of the sunset pictures that I have posted over the past week, but guys, the sunsets here are special. I've been to places, I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to a number of other places that have really great sunsets, like Florida has a really nice sunset usually. Pittsburgh even has their own. We have different colors in Pittsburgh. We have, pinks and purples. Here, man, they have beautiful oranges. They can have pinks mixing in with oranges. It is gorgeous, especially when it reflects off the water. To me, some of the best sunsets I've ever seen. I think it might be the best. It might be. I haven't been everywhere, obviously, and I got a little bit of pushback from some people that have been, very well traveled. One of my friends actually has been to all 50 states and like 100 countries, and he thought Hawaii was top 3. So I don't feel crazy out of bounds for my opinion personally, but dude.
I mean, look at this. If you're watching on YouTube, not listening on Apple or Spotify, I just pulled up one of Nick's images that he posted. I mean, unbelievable. Nick, I think you're muted right now somehow. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Nick's audio, but we are no longer hearing him. That's fine. We were about to wrap up anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've lost him, I think.
Yeah, definitely lost Nick.
we lost Nick. We will tell you where to find Nick. But he's gone to the void. The sunsets were too big.
Gone into the void. I muted myself because it didn't want me to talk. It wanted to silence me. The non-Hawaiian sunset truthers have silenced me.
There we go. He's back.
I'm serious. But I'm serious about that. That was on the Big Island, and I mean that specifically because I think the Big Island has the best sunsets in Hawaii, personally.
All right. Well, other than doing your sunset watching in Hawaii, Nick, where can the people find you?
You can find me on X, Twitter at Farabaugh FB. Read the stuff at SteelersNow.com. I do this every time I'm on Smitty, so I'm going to do it again. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Make sure to look for more stuff coming at SteelersNow.com. Oh, and by the way, I mean that because I have 2 big features coming from this Hawaii trip that you guys are going to not want to miss. One on the St. Louis school is coming, specifically on Nick Herbig and Rowan Wilson. They play together. I've talked to a lot of people for that one. Second's going to be on just the school culture in Hawaii and kind of what it's like and how it's bred some of these, players that the Steelers have right now.
Can't get it anywhere else. Alan, how about you? Where can people find you?
At @Saunders_PGH on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, SteelersNow.com, at PGH Steelers Now. And I've got another. I'm continuing my reassessment of Kevin Colbert's final draft classes. So if you missed that yesterday, the first one was out yesterday. Second one's coming out. We'll probably be out by the time this podcast comes out, and keep on with that. So go check that out.
I mean, at this point, yeah, we're just pushing back against the X thing. We're just saying Twitter going forward. You guys both did it. Find me on Twitter as well.
I saw that there's this court case that's happening involving, I don't know, Twitter and Facebook and other like social media companies. But in the court like briefs, I saw that they just made a note that says like, even though the company now calls itself X, most of the things that happened in this case were when it was called Twitter. So we're just calling it Twitter. So I feel like we now have legal precedent to just be like, it's Twitter. It doesn't matter what you call it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are not watching on YouTube and you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review over there. Subscribe over there so you get a notification when a new podcast is uploaded. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. You'll find us that way. Like I said, find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders, Nick Farabaugh, and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.